distressed communities, Providence, West Warwick, Central Falls, Woonsocket, and certainly Pawtucket. But we're also going to be very focused on what we call the urban character areas. A number of main streets, key travel corridors across the state, Hartford Avenue, across the state that have urban activities, urban characteristics that also need assistance. In that program, we'll be developing, starting in the next fiscal year, July 1st, a whole new Main Street initiative. This initiative will be able to parlay workforce training, capital assistance, marketing assistance, access to small business capital and credit, and parlay it to our distressed urban areas and our urban character areas across the state. We'll be bringing together a whole program. We will be developing Main Street efforts to help restore and focus these Main Street areas. The way the program will operate is that the cities and towns will be the ones to designate these critical Main Street areas. So we'll work with the Mayor Lombardi, we'll work with other mayors across the state, with the Chambers of Commerce, and they will be able to identify those critical areas where we would focus and concentrate these series of products and services and programs. It's a model that's been going on across the country very successfully. It's a model that we think we now can bring to Rhode Island. We're also going to be very focused on the area of manufacturing. I'm glad you brought that point up. One of the things that we've recognized in manufacturing is that manufacturing is not dead in Rhode Island. It's here and it's prospering, but it's transforming from low-skilled, low-wage manufacturing to what today we call lean management systems or advanced manufacturing. There are a number of original equipment manufacturers in the state who are prospering, but the reality is that the 3 or 4 variables that impact your business growth are access to capital, affordable capital, the cost of operating, which we talked about property taxes, the cost of operating business in Rhode Island as compared to the balance in New England, the workforce training issues, which I think are as much a precedent than trying to find people who are unwilling to work. The challenge is that many of the skill sets and jobs that are growing today in this state are not aligned to the education and skill sets of many of our fellow Rhode Islanders. In fact, well over half the people currently employed in the state, not the people unemployed, but currently half the people that are employed in the state have no post-secondary education training. So the challenge is that we have to not only realign and revamp public education from K to 12, we need to have more sustainable workforce education and training for adults going forward. So it's a real challenge within the state is that we are growing jobs, we are creating significant industry expansions in companies like FM Global and other financial service companies in North Rhode Island, Amica, Fidelity. The challenge is that many Rhode Islanders don't have the basic post-secondary education and skill sets to fill those jobs. And being in a New England market, not a Rhode Island market, is just as easy to get in the car and drive down from Mass and Connecticut into the Rhode borders, take a job, and at the end of the day, take that disposable income and live in Connecticut or Massachusetts. So we're realigning our programs, our services. We're very focused on our strengths. Manufacturing is a part of that. We're coming up with several new capital programs to help provide access to capital to manufacturers. We're working with the Rhode Island Manufacturers Association to develop targeted workforce training programs. We're dealing with what I think is one of the most significant cost factors to manufacturing, which is the cost of utilities. Unfortunately, we're at the end of the pipelines here in Rhode Island. We don't have a Tennessee Valley Authority. We don't have a Hoover Dam. We don't have hydro from Canada. So for the most part, our cost of particularly electricity is higher as compared to anywhere else in America. That's a significant impediment to manufacturers who are energy dependent. So over the last year, we've been realigning our renewable energy programs to be more focused on providing both low-interest loans, recoverable grants, and direct grants, specifically for manufacturing companies to be able to mitigate, employ renewable energy systems to mitigate the cost of electricity and utilities. So the governor is focused on a significant realignment plan. You'll see many of these programs being announced after July 1st. We'll be working with your chamber and other chambers across the state. But the reality is that until we have a sustained, consistent, uniform, predictable state budget, as the governor said, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. We have to be able to provide consistent funding, support, and investment in our business community. But if we don't have a reliable state budget and revenue sources to do that, we might have a Main Street in fiscal year 12, but we might be cutting it back in fiscal year 13. We have to sustain investment in our small business community, and the governor is attempting to do that by creating some level of consistency in both revenue and proper expense reductions in delivery of services as a part of this 4-year 12 budget. My final comment, again, I think this is an important one to recognize on the whole issue of, again, workforce training and education. There is a lot of discussion about people either not able to work or unwilling to work. That's a part of it, and that's clearly a part of an issue that has to be a part of realigning the delivery of social services. But it's also important to recognize that we are a New England-based economy. A large percentage of our workforce have and will always be drawn from a New England marketplace. A large number of our employers are dependent upon products and services, not only here in Rhode Island, but products and services across the region. And we have to be very aware of that. We're not Texas, we're not California. So as we begin to realign tax policy, employment services, training services, education policy, utility policy, we also have to be very aware that each and every day we're competing within Massachusetts and Connecticut. And we don't want to take the unintended consequences of having a Buy Rhode Island program and then potentially restrict Rhode Island companies from having access to the very lucrative markets in Mass and Connecticut. So we're always trying to balance fair, predictable policy that stimulates and supports industry, but doesn't kind of restrict us from having access to the larger New England marketplace. So thanks for having us come in. We'll be working very closely with your chamber, announcing these programs very soon in the first of the year. And again, we're very excited that we're able to deliver these, product and services directly to the small business community.